Well, welcome to this Business Communication Strategies podcast. As always, we try to provide multiple perspectives, and we hope that that leads to better insights. Today, we're going to be talking about a topic that I think is pretty exciting, analyst versus influencer. And so I'm joined by my esteemed panel of BCS experts. But let me just set it up first. Okay, so what are some of the things that we may the questions that we may ask and be answered? What is the difference between an analyst and influencer? Maybe is everyone part analyst and part influencer? Does one provide better or more accurate information than another? And, what are the thoughts from the BC Strategies experts on does each, serve a different and needed purpose? I thought before I go to the expert panel, I would go to the Merriam-Webster dictionary just for everybody. So I said, let's look at the definition of what is analysis, which arguably an analyst would do. And according to Merriam-Webster, a detailed examination of anything complex in order to understand its nature or determine its essential features. A thorough study. That certainly sounds like something that would help with communications collaboration, and especially in today's world, artificial intelligence. And then if we take a look at, what does it mean to influence? It seems that Merriam-Webster says it's the power or capacity to cause an effect in an indirect or intangible way. And I think it's interesting where it says it's the act of or power of producing an effect, without direct exercise of command. So that is what the dictionary says. I would like to first go to JR and and we got to go and get him on the screen here. JR, where did you go? Oh, he was in his car and he dropped off. So we will not go first to JR. That's there you go. Let's go first to Blair Pleasant. Blair. Oh. Yeah, there you go. I know.
I wasn't expecting. Okay.
Analyst versus influencer. What are your thoughts on this?
So yeah, I think every analyst is an influencer. I mean, that's part of what we do is to influence the market and buyers and vendors. I mean, that's kind of what we do. But I think we do it based on our expertise, and knowledge of the market, knowledge of the vendors, knowledge of the trends, knowledge of what customers are doing, what channel partners are doing. So I think we do research, whether it's, a research survey or just our own, talking to people. And, we all go to, tons of events and conferences, and we do a lot of, we get a lot of information and insights there. So we influence people, but it's based on our expertise and knowledge, and we try to be objective and look at things from different perspectives. We're not just, out there saying, buy this product or whatever. We're analyzing, the pros and cons. How differentiators. That's been a big thing. At every conference we ask, what are your differentiations from all the other vendors out there? So looking at what the vendors do right, what they do wrong. What the market is looking at. So there's a lot that goes into it, but we definitely influence the market, that's for sure. And, I know there have been times where, vendors have asked me to, participate in certain things because of the number of, Twitter followers I had or my LinkedIn followers. So they definitely want that exposure, but I think it's more than just, getting their name out there, but it's having that, knowing that what we provide, does have that in-depth background and expertise that provides our insights. Hopefully that made sense.
Yeah, no, I think it did. I think you leaned into the aspect of the definition, which is for analysis, which is a thorough study. I don't know, Tom, when Blair was talking, I mean, you were very still and absorbing what she was saying, but what's your thoughts on differences between influencers and analysts? Is one better than the other?
Yeah, I mean, I really like the way Blair put it, and I think there was a time where analysts, were running away from the the title of influencer, and some still do. They don't want to be seen as that very casual kind of Instagrammer, type of influencer that people think of when they think of the word influencer. But obviously, all analysts are influencers. All analysts influence the market in some way. Even the ones that just kind of do deep research on, how many phones were shipped. They're influencing decisions about go-to-market strategy. They're influencing by maybe defining an addressable market that's providing strategic direction. Certainly, the Gartner and Forresters of the world that are producing reports, those are massively influential. They're not just doing their analysis and then going, okay, we've analyzed the market, everybody. No, they're selling that, and they get a lot of money for that data because it's so valuable to the marketplace. So they're huge influencers. And then you have the independents like us that are engaged in both roles of, maybe some of us a little bit leaning more into the influencer side, or maybe being a little bit more intentional about stepping into more of an influencer role. But we're all doing it. But obviously not, so all analysts are influencers, but not all influencers are analysts. And there's some that are strictly going to just focus on the influencer role. They're going to build their followers, and they're going to leverage that side of their business and really focus just on being an influencer. So I think, there's roles for all of us. There's roles. It is a spectrum, and there's roles for the pure influencers, and there's roles for the pure analysts. But I can think of a couple of people, some might even be on this call, that are some of the best influencers and analysts. So it's not, even though it's a spectrum, it doesn't mean if you're good at one, you're not good at the other. And in some cases, that's true by choice. Some it's true by kind of just natural skill sets, but some are able to absolutely nail both the analyst role and the influencer role. Something I aspire to be is to do both of those roles, very, very well. So, I think that's the key point. It doesn't have to be one or the other.
Okay. No, so that's good insight from you, Tom, as an analyst and influencer. So let's go to David Danto. I mean, David, do influencers, are they always positive? And can you tell the difference when an analyst is going to say both positive and negative? I don't know. Thoughts to you. I know that's a pointed question.
It is a pointed question. It's something that I've been struggling with. I mean, I'm certainly one of the last people to join your group, as an official analyst for a living, even though I've kind of been doing it for the last 30 or so years. But what I see is if we do extensive research and we look at the product details and we ask the pointed questions and we attend conferences and we come back with our version of why everything was great, are we really being an analyst or are we really being an influencer? I think you can think of them like on the old stereo knobs, like bass and treble. They're you don't have to lower one to raise the other. It's a mix of both, and we all have some degree of mixing of both. But if the bottom line is you're getting paid by companies to attend their events and just saying good things about them, and you can search back 4, 5, 6, 8, 10 months, 12 months, 2 years, and you've never said anything negative about anybody, either you're being really good to a lot of companies and keeping quiet the dirt that you found, or you're not finding any dirt. And I think that leans more toward being an influencer than an analyst. I think an analyst owes the people that follow their work, whether that's industry clients, which a lot of us have, or end user clients, which a lot of us have. I think you owe them a level and degree of honesty that says, you know what, I kicked the tires on this, and I wish they could do better the second time around, or I found a couple of flaws here. It's difficult to say, I'm having coffee with Joe today, and Joe's got this great product, and let's talk about how great his product is. And next week I'll be with Tina, and Tina's product's great. So I struggle with. I think we are all more influencers than we were analysts 5 years ago, because that's the nature of the industry. Is people want to get the word out of what they do, and we do that well. But in order to be credible, I think at some point you have to say, you know what, this kind of sucks. So I do look for that. I look for that balance, and It's getting harder to find.
But do
Yeah,
you
I
need
think-
to do that publicly, or can you do that just with your clients?
That's a great question that I'm probably the least qualified person to answer. I was asked to review a product by a company that wanted to engage with what we do, and I've had it on my bench now for, I don't know, 2 months, and they say, well, try the software update, or maybe the lighting's not good, or maybe this is not right. And the bottom line is the camera's just not very good, which is really terrible. So if they're my client, I suppose I'm telling them that you need to fix this if you really want to be successful in the market. And I've done them the service that they've paid for. But I haven't gone out and said how terrific it is. So again, I that's a great question that I'm struggling with almost every day. I think I owe my clients the service of giving them a chance to fix what they've got, but I'm certainly not going to recommend it if it's not very good.
Right. Yeah, and that's to the point to your credibility, and certainly, the way I think about it is, if you do the analysis, but if nobody reads it, hears about it, or what have you, of course you have zero influence because nobody knows whether or not all the hard work you put in, whether the product was good or bad. So there has to be a bit of blend. I know David Maldow, at Let's Do Video, you do a lot of unboxings. You talk very eloquently, but also I think very authentically about various products. How do you feel this difference between analyst and influencer, and what do you think about when you're doing, I guess, both?
Yeah, it's I think Tom's right. It's a spectrum. And I think we tend to look at people, we look at ourselves and our colleagues and say, okay, I'm an analyst and this one's an influencer and that one's an analyst and this one's an influencer. And the fact is we're all different places on the spectrum. And I float around. On some of my videos, it's an influencer-y video, not much analyst. Some of my videos are really analyst-y videos, not much influencer. And overall, you could look at us and like I said, you can't say I'm an analyst, you're an influencer, but you might say, and Maldow tends to be 60-40 influence analyst. David Danto tends to be more 60-40 analyst influencer or whatever. But the point is that there is a pure thing on each side. There is a pure analyst and a pure influencer. If Electro Voice makes this microphone and they come to me and they say, we know you do a lot of stuff with microphones. We want to do an evaluation of this. It's just for our engineers. No one's going to see it, even if you say it's amazing. This is a private. We just need your analysis of how this mic works. You might say, well, that's influencing them to change their. That's what we mean by influencer. We mean influencing the public. So that would be pure analyst work. If they came to me and they said, hey, David, you have a huge following on YouTube. We want you to talk about our microphone. And I say, I use headsets. I don't even know which end of this thing to speak into. They say, we still want you to make a video. That would be pure 100% analyst. Influencer, because I don't. Right. Usually it's a little bit in between. I know something about microphones, so it would be mostly influencer. I'm not an expert on microphones, but there would be some analysis. I know some of the settings. I know some of what and I think that makes me a better influencer because I can do that bit of analysis. And on the other side, sometimes companies come to me as an analyst and say, hey, we want you to review. Zoom has a new AI feature. We want you to review it. But the fact that I have a YouTube following and I could put it out there and share with people makes a little extra value on my an analyst work because it's analyst/influencers. So I think we're all somewhere in the middle. I float around, and I think it makes us all. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's a wonderful thing. I think it brings more value to our clients, or the vendors that we do the work for, and it gets more information out to the public that we serve. So I think we should. We shouldn't say, I'm not a serious person anymore. I'm selling coffee mugs on YouTube, and I'm just an analyst. And I'm on TikTok. We should still do the serious work, but we should embrace the influencer side of it. It's a good thing.
Right. Now, I think that we most of us have mentioned that credibility aspect, and for me, like I always want to make sure that what I'm saying, because ultimately it's end organizations who are going to read what I write or the analysis. I think that to me that's associated more strongly with the analyst role. I do think that there probably are on the far side of the spectrum, as David and Tom, as you talked about. I think some influencers would hawk any product and say that it's wonderful. It becomes more of a advertisement, right? Like, I'm not a real doctor, but I play a doctor on TV, and so this nutritional supplement is fantastic. I mean, I think credibility, certainly for the BC Strategies experts, I mean, that's very important to all of us.
I don't think anyone in our community is that bad. We have a wide community. It's not just BC Strategies. We have secret chat channels and friends. There's like 40 or 50 of us. And maybe I'm just too loving or whatever, but I really love our little community. And I don't think there's a single person in there who I would criticize and say, you know, they're shameless, they're shilling. I think everyone, yeah, sure. You know, if someone's working with me and they're a good client, I might like I can't help but like their stuff a little bit more. I mean, we're human, but I don't think anyone out there is in our big group of friends is, you know, but there's in other industries for sure.
Well, yeah,
go ahead, David.
I would put the other point of that saying 15 years ago, before there was a Twitter, before there were social media channels, before anything else, most of the people in that community in that day, or the people that are around now that were in that community, were more pure analysts, because there wasn't this incentive that if you say something good, that tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people will hear about it. That with that incentive hanging over, I think we all have to be a little bit more careful to not fall into the trap. You know, as people ask me, you know, I'll write an opinion about something that I've written, and a number of people will comment on a platform like LinkedIn. Is this your opinion, or are you just being paid to say this? And I respond to that by saying, if I've written it down, it's my opinion. If you want to have another conversation with me about how influencers and analysts get funded, by all means, let's open that up in another chat. But if I've told you I like this product, it's because I like this product. Because believe me, I'm not shy about saying I don't like this product, or I don't like what a person has done to a brand, or what's going on at a company. I think that balance is needed. And granted, I'm probably taking it from a more negative perspective than most people do. We each have our style, and, you know, I can admit that. But I think the balance is necessary. It doesn't mean you have to be less of one to be more of the other. I think you just have to be able to be fair and have a reputation for being fair.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, Tom, I'm going to go to you, Tom, to see, and then I'll circle back to you, Blair, to wrap it up, since I went to you first. So anything to add there, Tom?
No, I mean, I think I'll just add one little point that I thought of when the two Davids were talking. But, you know, there's this idea. I think an influencer might, in some cases, they might be, it's a David thing. Yeah. I think there's this idea that maybe an influencer, the content's going to be provided for them. Like, here's the content we want to get out to our audience. And I think the analyst role is to create the content themselves, and to go to the events, to do the research, to come up with the analysis, and then share, you know, even if it's sponsored content, it's not, you know, here are the 3 takeaways from our event, we want you to talk about, Tom. You know, I wouldn't do that. Right. I want to come up with my own analysis, and I think that's, you know, maybe one of the little lines, I guess, of demarcation is, did you create the content that you're sharing, or did they create the content for you? And you know, that's a line that I have that you know, no one's, you know, put a wheelbarrow of money in front of me and said, say this, and you know, I haven't turned that down. But I think I would turn that down, because I'm an analyst. That's not what I do. Like, if there are people that do that, they have bigger audiences than I do, go talk to them. You know, if you want someone that can do analysis, that's been in this industry for 30 plus years and has a ton of experience, and yeah, wants to create some video content around that and try to come up with creative ways to talk about it, then yeah. So, you know, that's a big kind of difference for me, I guess.
Yeah, I like that differentiation in terms of, yeah, analysts are creating their own content. They're not like reading lines in a script, right? Which would make it be that paid actor or whatever. Blair, I'm going to circle back to you for kind of the last concluding thoughts.
Yeah, I like what Tom had to say about that. You know, it is our content, it's our ideas, it's our analysis. Again, based on our expertise. You know, none of us here are, you know, we're all, we've all got gray hair or, whatever. We've all put in our time. Okay, we don't all have gray hair, but we've all put in our time. We know the market, we know the players, we've seen the changes. So, I think being an analyst and doing what we do it's not just, here are your talking points. It's, here's my opinion or analysis based on, what I've seen, what I know, what I'm hearing. And there's also a difference, David, you talked about, just posting all positive things. I think there's a place for things. I'm not going to, be really negative about a vendor on LinkedIn, let's say, or Twitter. If I have something constructive criticism, either it's going to go to the vendor, or if I'm consulting with an end user client, I'm going to share it with them. I'm not going to, pan a vendor, on LinkedIn and, maybe get sued or whatever. So I think some of our things might be more positive on LinkedIn because I just don't think it's the platform for saying, all these, here's, negative things or whatever. But that's just
even
my
Microsoft.
opinion.
We can trash Microsoft, right?
Oh yeah, we can trash Microsoft.
Okay.
I mean, that goes without saying.
Come on.
Yeah,
I'm getting ready to trash.
That's different.
I'm getting ready to trash Verizon really, really hard. So stay tuned for that.
Also very acceptable.
Telcos in general, are fair.
Wow, it got to this conclusion was one I couldn't have forecast. Now we're just like heaping on who we're going to trash. There you go. It's like
I got a
teaser.
list.
A teaser for the upcoming podcast. Well, thank you all, BC Strategies experts. I think this is, I was super interested to hear your thoughts because, like many of you, I'm, it is a spectrum and I'm not sure on different days, kind of where I fall. And I'm kind of new to the analyst game because having been a consultant more. And so this is definitely evolving. And I think maybe in a follow-up podcast, we'll talk more about, the analyst role in the face of, upcoming AI and how does that impact analysts and even the influencer role. But for today, thank you very much for joining. You can find lots more podcasts and analyst-created content on bcstrategies.com. Have a great rest of your day.